So I've got 8 things that I think you guys should know if you're, well, moving for sure or thinking about moving to Brazil. And the first one I'd like to start off with is my wife's family greeted me with open arms. I met a lot of her family. I could meet all of them because she's got so many cousins and aunts and uncles. But even when we moved to our first house in Saquarema, we had a neighbor that was a lot older than us, and she found out that we had to go to Niterói, which is like 2 hours away, and she offered not only to drive us there, but we also stayed at her house or her apartment there, and she took us to the doctor's office where we used the doctor that she recommended. And it's very common to get invited over for barbecues. Me not speaking any Portuguese when I arrived, I've learned slowly as I've lived here, and I still speak broken, barely conversational Portuguese, but Brazilians are always trying to like at least listen to me and help me out. And then if they speak some English, they'll at least try and speak some English with me, but I never feel like the judgment of, oh, you dumb foreigner, you don't even speak our language. It's always like they're impressed that you're even trying. So I think Brazilians are very friendly and very welcoming people as a whole. My wife and I actually, she had health insurance, which surprisingly was much worse than the free healthcare, which I didn't quite understand how that works. But I had a screw go through my knee in Saquarema. Well, right above my knee. Thank God it didn't go through my knee. And I got a tetanus shot. I called my brother just to check. He's a doctor. And he was like, oh, you need to update it every so often. So anyway, I got my tetanus shot like 3 hours later from the time and I didn't wait in line for more than, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And given that this was in a small town, that might make a big difference. I don't know what it would have been like if I was in Rio. But yeah, I got my SUS card, I think, that day. So yeah, that was very impressive because I don't think that would have happened in the US. And we had our daughter, we go into that in more detail in another video, but at a public healthcare or a public hospital, and it was fantastic. They treated us, I mean, very well. The doctors and the nurses were awesome with Sammy. They give you 6 meals a day while you're there, so that part was great. I was not expecting that. I mean, I'm glad that I was proven wrong. It's much better than I would have expected. Like Manaus was probably had the craziest drivers, but everywhere that in all of these cities that I've lived in, oh holy camole! Like you are going to get if you're renting a car here or buying a car here, you should know this definitely. I mean, you'll see it if you're in an Uber. You'll kind of just be like, oh, that guy, he's passing us around a blind corner, and there's on a 2-lane road where there's no passing lane, and this happens all the time. I mean, it happens like every single time I'm on the road. Someone does this, even on a little neighborhood road, like in our neighborhood, where the speed limit is, I don't know, like probably 15 miles an hour, 30 kilometers an hour. People are just flying by, like passing people. It happens so much that you're just like, you kind of just get used to it. But it's very annoying when you first get here if you're not used to it, because you think that, because people will, it seems like you're always being tailgated if you're not going. And I don't drive slow. I mean, I drive a little over the speed limit. I'm never going like 20 under or anything. And yeah, it's hard to get used to. I remember the last time we took an Uber from Saquarema to Raruama, which is like 40 minutes away. I just for fun was counting how many people passed our Uber driver, and he wasn't driving slow either. He was going at the speed limit, just like either blindly or just like obviously it was only a 2-lane highway. There were nine different cars that passed him, and I think twice it was around a blind corner too. So yeah, get used to that, because it is, I can't think of anywhere in the US where people drive like this. The rent is cheap, food is much cheaper. Even I think gas is actually cheaper. But household appliances, electronics, and cars are more or less the same price, and in some cases I think it might even be more. Like when we bought our car for just under 4,000, and it's 12 years old, has over 100,000 miles. I can't compare it because we don't have Citroën, which is a French brand car in the US, but we went and looked at kind of a beater of a 20-year-old V-dub Goal, and it was like almost 3,000. And so just to give you guys an idea, those things are going to be about the same price. So you'll save a lot of money in some aspects. Just remember that there's going to be things that are cheap, and then some things are going to be pretty much the same price, which is electronics, appliances, vehicles, probably a few other things I'm missing. I don't know if you heard about the election, but it is very...
Manifestantes invadiram o bloqueio e agora estão a caminho.
Tem várias das manifestações, tá? Antes que alguém acuse essas pessoas.
So, in the presidential election, it was Bolsonaro and Lula, and in the first voting, it was so close that they had to re-vote. So they voted at the beginning of October, and then voted it again at the end of October, and this was the one where Lula was crowned the victor, and it was not taken too well.
Vídeos que circulam nas redes sociais mostram produtores rurais e caminhoneiros
De prejuízos, mas nós sabemos que várias obras de arte importantes do...
Definitely a very controversial guy. He was president back in the early 2000s, and actually went to prison for accepting bribes. And if you've seen him, he looks kind of like an angry hobbit, and he is somewhere between a socialist and a communist. I wouldn't walk down a dark alley in Rio at 2 in the morning, but everywhere that we've lived, okay, aside from Manaus, I would not call Manaus a safe city, but we lived in a town of 100,000 in Rio, and it was safe. We walked at night. It was a very quiet, peaceful town. Florianopolis has 500,000 people, and it's safe here. Obviously, I know that there's going to be people that, oh, I thought Brazil was so dangerous. And yes, I'm just talking about from our experience, and we've traveled around too. So it's not like we just stay in our little neighborhood. I would say that it's just be smart. I mean, if you're pulling your cell phone out and you're, I don't know, in like some random part of Sao Paulo or Rio and doing a live or something like that, you might not see that cell phone again. But as a whole, I think it's not as dangerous as it's made out to be. I mean, the most dangerous part of Brazil is, well, I can't say it's the most dangerous part. The Amazon is probably one of the most dangerous parts of Brazil. So 50% of Brazil is pretty much unlivable. I mean, you can live there, but yeah, if you go into the forest by yourself, that's probably as dangerous as going to like a bad neighborhood in Rio. Immigrated. I'm a resident here, and I got my residency here way faster than it would have been for my wife to get it in the US. So in that aspect, it was actually really nice. I mean, it was a few months between the time I landed in Brazil and I was a resident, but going through the process just to do anything that has to do with government is very frustrating. Like, for instance, right now I'm trying to get my license here, my driver's license. My Washington license is still valid, but my wife had it translated by an official translator. We got that back and took that to the DMV. We made our appointment. I brought all of the documents, and when they saw the translation, they said that it didn't have the rights. Apparently, I'm supposed to have the type of vehicle that I'm allowed to drive. And since I don't know any state in the US that has that on their driver's license, I do not know how I will get my Brazilian driver's license. So if you guys know, that'd be great. But yeah, anything dealing with the government is very, very annoying here. As it is in the US. It's not like the US is great, but I think it's elevated here. It's even more so. I think it's between 5 and 10% of Brazilians are fluent in English. There's probably around 15 to 20% are conversational, meaning they can talk to you a little bit. You can probably try and figure out if you have just a base in Portuguese, but man, if you're gonna come here and think you're gonna be able to get by with just English, and you are in for a rude awakening. Especially when I got to Manaus, I started not knowing anything. So that's not a lot of time. And I wasn't practicing conversations with anybody, except for Sammy every now and then. So it was hard. I felt like it was like having a handicap when you come here and you have to have someone translate for you. Thankfully, Sammy was always, with me, so that was great. But eventually, you're gonna want to do things on your own, like go to the grocery store, or who knows, have to take an Uber to another part of town. And I like to talk to my Uber drivers. I want to know about neighborhoods here and just find out about people and have friends. So I would definitely consider, if you know that you're gonna move here, or even if you're just kind of on the fence about it, I would start taking Portuguese classes and like grind, not just watching some videos or studying some grammar here and there. I would really try and get better. Like if I just wish I would have known I was moving. I kind of decided at last minute before I moved here. But anyway, those are the 8 things that I have for you guys that I would want to know before moving to Brazil in 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I will have more videos for you guys. I'm going to try and make one. Actually, I'm coming up on 2 years here in Brazil, and I wanted to share my story about how I came here. Obviously, there was my motivation for that was Sammy. And anyway,